Bruce is based in Sydney, Australia, and his creative marketing ideas are seen in 13 countries. Professor Robert Hunt of Sydney's Macquarie University Graduate School of Management describes Bruce as possessing a rare grasp of the often bewildering subject of human imagination.
We're going to take a journey into the future and the skills you're going to need when you get there. If we won't be salespeople in the future, can we still be persuasive? Will productivity still count? Will we still be expected to open up the client's thinking to new possibilities? Will we be influential? It will always be our responsibility to persuade clients to take wealth creation and asset protection seriously. New skills will be needed, and I think the Australian experience shows us that there are 8, perhaps 9 new skills for remaining persuasive, for remaining a force for change in the professional era. People today will paint a total picture of you just from the limited information, often what they pick up in the first 5 minutes. Are you surprised about this? Well, you shouldn't be. Colleagues, you did it yourself this morning. Right, you gained the impression that the thing you were going to sit on looked about like a chair. Everything else you've seen of that shape before always held you up in the past, and so you sat straight down in it. You didn't get the full facts about the chair. There wasn't time. That's the pace of life today. We make decisions on the run, and that's why you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Remember the old cliche, I've heard a lot about you. It's highly flattering when it's true. Make it true, colleagues. Hear a lot about them using the newspaper archival search. Don't wait to be told. Be surprisingly well informed. Develop the habit of asking each question in your mind quickly just to make sure it's going to come out right. You don't ask it in your mind at the pace of normal speech. You can do it in a fraction of a second. You'd be surprised how good you get at this with practice. Advisors may be paid to give advice, but no one is paying clients to listen. You only earn the right to be heard if you've listened first. Stephen Covey Sr. was right all those years ago. Seek first to understand and then to be understood. Always pause and reflect briefly before answering. This will stop you breaking in when the other person hasn't finished, and it will give them the freedom to pause themselves without feeling you're going to jump in and say something right away. Feed back in your own words the important points the client has raised. You know, one of the most important phrases an advisor can use is, "If I understand you correctly," followed by a neat summary of what you do understand the other person is saying. That phrase, "if I understand you correctly, you're telling me," and so on, creates 3 very powerful advantages. Advantage 1, you will listen more attentively because you are planning to summarize their important points. Advantage 2, the customer knows they have been heard and understood, a great builder of trust. Advantage number 3, it will reveal those critical times when you have not understood them correctly, or maybe they didn't say what they really meant. Building a mental map does not replace taking notes. I never said it did. But here's the mystery. Often the mental map includes emotional considerations, things you can't write down in front of the client but need to remember to support your recommendations. Now, the best way to draw your mental map is to have a picture of something familiar in your mind already. Friends of mine use a room in their home. You then arrange little mental pictures of the things you need to remember on shelves or tables in the mental picture of that familiar room. The technique, by the way, is called mnemonics. It's a tool for memory improvement because it converts facts into visuals, which are much easier to remember. And we know that's true. You always forget a name, you never forget a face. If you're not naturally gifted at thinking visually, you can develop this skill, and all professional advisors will need to. You want to know how? Okay. Make flashcards on your word processor with 2 sets of 4 numbers each. Glance at them and memorize the left-hand set only by the sound of it. Read it to yourself and get the sound. But the second set by taking a mental photograph of the numbers. This is important. You glance at the second group of numbers, but you don't read them out to yourself. You just remember them like you're remembering a picture. Then hide the flashcard and try to say the whole number string. And by the way, it's harder than you think because you're using logical verbal brain to read the first string and you're using imaginative visual brain to read the second string. Want to try one for fun? Raise your hand if you got it, please. Hi, that is a very high percentage. Thank you, thank you. This is not your average audience. It's difficult, but it's worth training your mind to work verbally and visually at the same time. And now you know the new skills of first impressions. Know ahead, question interactively, and listen on 2 levels. Okay, how's your mental energy? Still tuning in all right? Have I exhausted you? Okay, you want some more? I can't go now. Okay. Thank you. Okay. It's amazing, isn't it? Their walk is always graceful and cat-like. Their initial stance like a statue. But why do they walk and stand so well? I mean, it's the dive that's being judged, not their approach. But we know why. Impressions count. They realize that the impression created by a sloppy walk-up right, would make the dive seem sloppy as well. Now, ask yourselves the question. If judges at Olympic level can be biased by body posture unrelated to the main event they're there to judge, is it not reasonable to say that prospective clients will be influenced by your posture as well? I once delivered a workshop in Australia, right, home of the nasal voice, and a delegate came up to me at the end of the workshop and he said, "Bruce, mate, I reckon all this stuff about fixing your voice is a load of rubbish." I replied quite simply that I had already formed the view he felt this way about voice improvement. You may object to the idea of voice improvement by saying that you should just be yourself. Colleagues, of course you should just be yourself. Who did you think I was suggesting you should be? But that self should be as highly trained as possible in every relevant discipline. And your voice, being a primary communication tool, is certainly a relevant discipline. You speak to your client at roughly the same pace as they speak to you. Don't go to extremes, but listen for words and phrases they use. Where appropriate, use them back. Let's imagine your client calls something definite a sure bet. Even if you don't use the expression a sure bet, you can still put it into your vocabulary by saying, "Yuki, this is probably what you would call a sure bet." Vocabulary matching, used intelligently, allows clients to say, "Here at last is somebody who speaks my language." When somebody understands something, they don't say, "I understand something." They say, "I see." Or they might say, "I get the picture." Pictures of concepts form in the human mind once we understand them. By using visuals effectively, you get into the mind straight away, rather than asking the client to get the picture from your words alone. Simple sketches done before the client's eyes on an A3 sketch pad focus concentration. They can make difficult concepts easy to see. They're mental shorthand for ideas. It's true. A picture tells, well, you know a picture tells 1,000 words. These are not sketch pads. These are layout pads. You buy them from art supply stores. With 1 or 2 clients, you'll be seated around a coffee table and you'll use a soft pencil. But you know a sketch pad works fine if you're standing up in small groups. It just means that you have to use a broad marker pen. Once your scribble has become too messy and too much detail, you turn back the preceding page. That's why it's important that they're layout pads, not sketch pads, the paper you can trace through. Make a neat tracing of the essential elements of the same diagram. That's the one you give to the client to take home. It's theirs. And this leaves you with the messy but detailed one to assist your write-up. Practice doing these sketches. You only need a few for your familiar financial concepts. Fluency in sketching shows competency. Bad sketches would make the advice seem bad as well. Remember how we said the medium is the message? A retirement plan is like sending money ahead to a future time zone and with a very favourable exchange rate. Trauma insurance is like having a rich uncle. He won't spoil you. He wants you to work. But he would certainly come to your rescue if something serious misfortune happened. Failing to insure is still insuring. It's just like insuring, but you're nominating you as the insurance company. You pay up if something bad happens. It's called self-insuring. It's fine as long as you have vast cash reserves. But if you don't, why are you pretending to be an insurance company? Disability insurance is like having two salaries instead of one. One while you're well, one while you're sick. Metaphors, friends and colleagues, along with interactive visuals, are skills of higher communication. The ability to take your client onto a journey in their own future uses the imagination, the only way for them to get there. You know, the future is a wonderful place to spend some time. From an imagined point in the future, you can change the past. Take your clients on that mental journey to the future. They will see things more clearly, and they'll want to make changes to a time when they still can. Remember we said it's people's lives we change? You will change more lives, and you will change those lives more profoundly if you adopt and own the precious skills of the future that we've shared today.